Brad, do you have a icebreaker?
I got an icebreaker. I'm very curious about your shirt, Will. It looks really cool. What is it?
Should be easy to guess.
Amazing.
Oh, that's sick, dude.
Such a great shirt.
Thank you. Thought I'd represent.
Nice.
No, I love how like bold it is, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, hold nothing back.
That's awesome.
Where is this? Come on.
I like the artwork in your background, Amy. Assuming that's a real office.
It is a real office. It's a real office. It's really there. Actually, because we're not live, I think I can do this. Hopefully it won't mess me up in the future.
Yes, we are.
Well, I meant like podcast live.
So she's gonna change her camera.
Yeah, I'm gonna change my camera to a terrible one. Yeah. FaceTime. Oh, that's FaceTime. That's like pointing down. There you go. Get a little bit different view. Boop.
Boop.
Yeah. The embarrassing thing though about that artwork in the back though is that it's just from Target. It's nothing special.
Well, maybe it looks better when it's slightly out of focus then.
Maybe. Well, I mean, it's still fine. Now, this one I did do. I painted that.
Nice.
Oh, sweet.
Good job.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, we did a painting with a twist with my family. You know, it's like me, my wife, my mom, and my dad, and we went. And this was a long time ago. And we basically like placed them in the house based on whose was best. So like the best painting got hung up in like a room where people would see it. The worst painting, mine, got put in the garage on the wall, you know, like, just pecking order.
So funny. So
That's fair.
We don't do this as much anymore, but for a while we had these family pictures and we would just swap them out based on who was visiting. So when my parents came over, we'd put out their picture. When Henry's parents came out, we'd put out his family. Oh, man. Okay.
Nice.
By the way, how's my sound coming through?
It sounds great.
Good. Glad to hear it. I've had some difficulty in previous podcasts. I got some new AirPods and they seem to be working out.
Oh, nice.
The 3s?
Yeah.
How do you like them?
I got the 2s.
Are the tips like with the foam in there like pretty good?
Yeah. They're very comfortable. They fit very snugly and I didn't adjust shit.
Yeah.
And you know the things that you slide up and down to like change volume?
Uh-huh.
They were always like a bit too small for my big chunky fingers. And these ones, the like surface area is a lot longer. So they're easier to use.
Nice. Yeah, I heard with the foam in there. I heard with the foam they fit better, which leads to better noise canceling as well. So like they said it was like a 2 times increase or something, but I feel like that's mostly due to the fit, you know?
I haven't really tested it very thoroughly, but I have a flight to Australia on Friday. So then I will find out for sure.
Yeah. You think they'll last the whole way? That's a long time.
No, they'll need to be charged.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah, I did this.
Nothing lasts on such a long flight.
Yeah. How long is that flight?
Experiment.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
About 26 hours.
Shoot.
26? Is that what you said?
Miserable.
Well, it's 2 flights. There's no direct flight from Berlin to Melbourne.
Gotcha. What's bringing you there?
There is one. My family's there. I'm from Australia.
Wait.
There is a flight from London to Sydney, I think, and it's 23 hours. One flight.
That's crazy because Berlin is closer.
Yes, but it's not as big of a transport hub.
Oh, got it. Brad, you were going to talk about your test?
Oh, my experiment on the airplane. Yeah. I had my old like Sony over-ear noise canceling headphones and I compared them to the AirPods and the AirPods beat them out, in my opinion. Of just like,
have you tried the Max?
Not yet. I haven't taken these on like a flight, but I do expect these to be better. Like really? I'm pretty amazed with how good these are, noise cancellation.
Okay. I've been eyeing them. I just have a hard time justifying the price.
It was company money, so I don't think I could have pulled the trigger personally.
Yeah, I did decide if I have to go back to an office ever, I will get over ear because I want to communicate to people that I have headphones in. With my hair, you can't always tell that I have headphones, and I
True.
don't want people coming up and being like, Amy, Amy, Amy.
True.
Oh man.
Yeah, I feel that.
Will, do you go in the office?
Occasionally, not very often anymore. Our team's mostly remote. We've got a few other people in Berlin, including 2 people that work with me.
Okay.
So I go in now and then, but for the most part, I can't be bothered.
I've actually been to the Prisma office in Berlin.
Really?
Cool.
Yeah. I went to Prisma Day in 2022.
Very cool.
Went to the office. I mean, it was in this really cool beer garden for the event. And then the day off, I guess after the conference, I went to the office. Met some people.
Nice. So you are you have been involved with Prisma for a while, as you said.
Yep. So I worked at Redwood for 2.5 years, and we had first class support for Prisma. And then with the pivot for a while, Prisma was still supported out of the box. And I think Justin used to be a Prisma employee, one of the core maintainers. He probably hasn't been there in a few years.
I've only been here for 1 year, so
all good
before my time.
Yep, all good. Brad, I was going to ask you, have you been looking at any of the video game stuff with Christmas?
Always.
I didn't know what your kids were interested in.
Always. There's a 2 new ones out. 2 new ones out now. Metroid Prime 4, that one's gonna be for me. And then Kirby Air Riders. It's like a racing game. That one's gonna be for the kids.
Okay. I saw an ad for that one. We bought, Henry bought a PS5 and was like, is this for me or is this for Isaac?
I don't know. I won that PS5 from Century, which was awesome.
Oh yeah.
But I played one game on it maybe, and it's been sitting disconnected for quite a while now.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. They want to play Spider-Man, I think, and it's only on the PS5.
Yeah, that was cool to check out. I mean, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot. You win all the things. I was with you in Austin at that conference, and you got to watch.
That's when my luck started. I've never had good luck since then. But the whole Century thing was me and a coworker at Atlassian. Century did this hide and seek thing where they hid codes in their website in the dev tools and stuff. And me and a buddy tag teamed it and really tried to find it and then would get the codes in.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
And brilliant. So let's go ahead and get started.
Let's do that.
I was trying to find it.
How long is this podcast? An hour?
Yeah, we usually go to the top of the hour. So
okay, cool.
I don't know what time it is there.
6 p.m.
Oh. Well, let's get going so you can get dinner. We can get lunch.
I'm ready when you are.
Sweet. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web design and development with a little bit of zest. In today's episode, we have our new good friend, Will Madden, talking all about Prisma and its latest and greatest features.
Nice to meet you all.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compressed.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton. I am a design engineer at G2I.
Hey, y'all. My name is Brad Garapi. I am a senior systems engineer at Cloudflare.
And as I said, we have Will Madden on the show from Prisma. Welcome, Will.
Thanks very much, Amy. My name's Will. I'm an engineering manager from Prisma. Originally from Australia. I've been working in the industry for 16, 17 years. And this is the first tooling company that I've worked at. In the past, I was always on the other side of the fence using Prisma, and now I'm helping to build it up.
Lovely. I don't know if I should say this or not. I'll say it anyways. I just love how other countries speak English. I just feel like I have such a terrible American accent. I just love it when British people or Australians, New Zealanders, I mean, just listen to it all day. Oh, funny. So I'm super excited to talk about Prisma. We've had Nicholas Burke, we've had Mark Hess on the show before talking about Prisma and all the tooling. Brad and I are both huge fans of Prisma and just all that it offers. And so just excited to talk about what the next step looks like and some of the changes that you guys have made.
Great. That's what I'm here for.
Lovely.
So you mentioned like one of the first things you did when you started at the company was wrote some kind of like big document stating kind of like your goals for what an ORM is. Can you talk about that and explain some of the points in there?
Yeah, sure. It wasn't such a big document. It was the Prisma ORM manifesto, which you can find on our blog, and it's also one of the pinned issues on the GitHub repo. The idea was, at the time when I joined the company, Prisma had been going through a bit of a rocky patch, and there was a lot of, it seemed like there was a lot of distrust in the community, or the feeling that the voice of the community wasn't being heard. So I wanted to sort of set us on a specific path and give us some vision and direction. And the manifesto was a way of communicating, look, here's what we think the problem has been. We think you feel that you're not being heard. And here's what we want to do about it. We established, these are our first-class databases. This is what the other databases look like. We've got like secondary support and community-supported databases. This is how we're going to triage tickets, and we're going to use upvotes on GitHub issues as an indicator that these are things that matter. And here's what we're going to do with things once we've identified that they matter. And so it was just a way of like trying to establish a clear relationship and a system of communication with the community.
Awesome. And this is mainly like in support of the ORM itself. This doesn't necessarily go into like your hosted Postgres solution or anything. This was just like,
yeah, that's right.
This is how we're going to listen to you and change our software to better fit the needs.
Yeah, exactly. This was specifically for the ORM. But of course, our community's needs and opinions are even more important for us in launching this new database product. It's just been much more difficult to gather that information because we don't have a stream of incoming issues where people tell us, well, this is what we need from a database. It's stuff we've had to infer from interviews and from our past experience ourselves using hosted database solutions in previous companies we've all worked for.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting.
I'm always curious. So you talked about like part of this ORM manifesto is like choosing what databases you're going to support as like first-class citizens and what you're going to leave to the community to implement. And with your hosted solution, it is Postgres. So I'd love to know like maybe the reasoning behind why Postgres and what other databases you support as first-class citizens, and just talk a little bit about the why there. Is it just purely demand?
Well, you've asked me two questions, right? One was, why did we choose Postgres for our hosted database? And the other one was, how do we choose which databases to prioritize for our ORM? Let me start with the ORM because that's my area of expertise. I'm the engineering manager for the ORM specifically, not for the hosted product, but I'll give you what insight I can. So with the ORM, we looked at the breakdown of usage. The Prisma ORM, when you run it, collects a little bit of telemetry for things like reporting diagnostic failures and things that enable us to correct bugs. And part of what we can do with that telemetry is say, well, such and such percentage of our people are using Postgres, this many people use MySQL, this many people use SQL Server. And we use that to establish, okay, these are the databases our community uses the most. So let's say these are the ones we're going to focus our attention on. And for secondary support, we have these things, but you'll see new features come out for these databases first and then roll out to those ones. Security fixes across the board will be prioritized, but bug fixes and minor updates will go out first to the first-class databases and then to the rest. But it was primarily based on usage. Oh, and your second question was, why did we choose Postgres for Prisma Postgres? I think a big influencing factor was that the majority of our users of the ORM use Postgres. And Postgres is incredibly flexible. People use it for everything now. So I think part of our motivation was we wanted a solution that we could extend and that could meet the needs of a very large cohort of our user base and meet the needs of people that we can't predict what their needs will be today. Postgres seemed like, well, I'm hypothesizing here. I wasn't on the team at the time, but I expect that was one of the reasons why it was chosen.
Brad, do you use Postgres primarily?
Yeah. It's my like database of choice when I'm building side projects for relational stuff.
Cool. I started
What
using
about when
more
it's
of
non-relational?
What's that now?
What about when it's non-relational?
I don't know, KV maybe, Cloudflare KV.
Uh.
Something really, really chill.
I've
would
been
say
using
that.
more of
I would think
SQLite lately, but some of that just has to do with some of the framework choices I've been making. So
that makes sense. Are you
Yeah.
building offline first or front-end applications?
Some of them just have to do with like portability. So like at Redwood, they pivoted to SQLite out of the box. And some of that was because we had tied ourselves to Cloudflare. And so with D1, you had SQLite. They kind of transitioned a little bit to put the database inside a durable object, which was also just kind of making that file present. And that way you had that local first, as you were mentioning, that local first environment. But I really don't have a preference. I know there's certain nuances, but to me, that's one of the beauties with using a service like Prisma is that in some ways you can just switch that configuration and then it works in both places. There's still a few things that you have to take into account, like enums and things like that. But for the most part, it's a one-to-one. Like you just switch it and then you're good to go.
That's a beautiful dream.
Yeah.
It's very rarely true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of it depends. If you're coding and you're just thinking like, I know I might need to switch at some point. I'm not going to store this value as an enum. I'll put it in a table.
Yeah.
Then you can kind of get those switches in or minimal changes. Put it that way.
There's a lot of like common foundational behavior that will be the same across most of the SQL relational databases. Once you start building an application that's a bit more sophisticated, you're going to start naturally consuming things you may not even realize are specific to the database you're working on at the time. And there will come a time when you want to switch and you discover, oh, I've accidentally coupled myself to a specific database target. Abstractions have leaked into my application code. Then it's not so straightforward to switch. And that's one of the complaints that we face quite a bit at Prisma, where developers, especially more junior developers, are quite frustrated because they can't just pick up their database and replace it with a totally different one that has completely different behavioral characteristics and may not have the support for the same representations, and things don't work.
But I see what... Oh, sorry, Brad.
That's the beauty of the Postgres database. Like it has a lot of really nice things built in. So it was a good first choice for the hosted platform. But
I think so
you're right.
too.
It ties you to that because you're just used to the nice things that it has.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
and it's got a plethora of extensions.
Yeah.
That does make it nice.
Yeah. Okay. So Prisma just launched like this whole Prisma 7, this major update. I want to hear all about it. And I think the best place to start, in my opinion, is the config file. I feel like that's what users are introduced to first. We've seen major changes to the config in the past about like now you could split it out into separate files and things like that. Talk about the new format of the config and what's different.
That is such a surprising place to begin.
Yeah, really? I don't know.
Well, it just sounds like the most bureaucratic detail of this exciting new launch. Tell me about the config file.
That is exactly where I start with
such
like,
a developer.
It's like, yeah, I'm getting started. This is the first thing I'm going to touch. That's what I want to hear about.
Sure thing. Let's do it. Well, like, I guess we should go back a step. In the past, Prisma didn't have a config file. You had your Prisma schema file where you would describe what models you have and what properties and relationships they have, and pretty much everything else would flow from that. And it kind of got to a point where things were leaking into the config file that had nothing to do with your the schema of your database or your application domain. And at some point, the team said, we need somewhere else to store this. Every other tool in the world has a like designated place you put configuration. What about us? And so we introduced the config file. And as soon as we did that, we realized, okay, this gives us a lot of opportunities to solve long-standing problems with Prisma, because Prisma has always been really dedicated to providing first-class DX. Like above everything else, we will give you a very nice experience. And a big part of that was, since we target a huge, very broad audience of developers with diverse needs and diverse levels of like technical understanding, we had to make a lot of assumptions. And because the system had these assumptions baked in, we then had to give people ways to opt out of them or to configure it to behave differently. And without a config file, those config parameters were just getting stuck in all over the place. You could have them in package.json, in your schema file. They could be parameters to the Prisma client at runtime. There were like magical environment variables. We would load your .env file for you. So the biggest change with the config file is we want to remove all of these baked in behaviors. We want to put them all in the hands of the users, so you have control of them. And we will make some assumptions up front. We'll give you sensible defaults, but the rest we want to expose to you and let you mix and match the things that you need to fit your environment. The simplest example being, we won't load your environment variables from file for you. We leave it to you to do that however you want, and you just do it at the top of your config file. So when you run a Prisma command, it will load your config file. In there, you can load your environment variables however you want. It could be from your .env file. It could be from wherever Wrangler puts them. You can get them however you want, and you can feed them into Prisma yourself selectively.
Yeah, and it's a TypeScript file, so you can run code in the config. So if you're trying to connect to some different local database or something that's not as simple as an environment variable, you can do whatever you need to do to make that happen, which that is like the killer feature for me.
And that's the second thing we did with the config file, was we introduced the concept of an adapter. If you want to connect to your database, sorry, I tell a lie. This is a feature that we have been working on that isn't out yet. But the plan is we want to allow you to import packages to extend Prisma's behavior. In particular, we want to take the adapters feature that exists on the client side and use the same implementation on the backend. So you import a package, you pass it to the configuration, and you can instantiate it however you like. And as you said, utilize the fact that this is all in TypeScript, and we can rely on whatever your bundler system is or your module resolution system is, and we don't have to do it for you and maybe make the wrong choices for your environment along the way.
Yeah, sick. And what's the idea for the adapters? Just different database support, or would they have other functionality from that?
Well, you use them today in the Prisma client. When you instantiate your Prisma client, you give it an adapter, and that's how Prisma will connect to your database. Same principle.
Gotcha.
So it can support different databases. It can also support different drivers. Or if you're in a new environment, like we have a serverless driver that you can use, well, in serverless environments, and that's packaged the same way.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let me ask a quick question. So one of the things that we were talking about before I left Redwood was this idea, like they were really into co-location. And so like what I mean by that was I created shareware.dev, where you could create kind of your own packages and be able to drop those into, say, a Redwood project. And it would include everything that you need from your front end stuff. It would include all your router information. Ideally, it even include all your database stuff. So it sounds like maybe this adapter situation would help with that, where you could create these plugins that need database support and just kind of include them in your projects. Is that accurate?
I'm not super familiar with the thing you're talking about, but let me repeat it back to you and see if I understand. It sounds like what you're describing is composability.
Yes.
Like you want to be able to like pluck something off the shelf and something else and stick them together. Then the system that you give them to figures out how to use them together.
That's right. Here's a blog. Here's a change log. Here's another whatever. Almost like a plugin.
Yes, that is something Prisma has been historically very bad at. We give you one monolithic black box and it will do everything for you, and the experience will be beautiful. You'll love it. Don't worry about it. But as soon as you want to customize it, there aren't that many composable pieces that you can pull apart and stick back together in ways that fit your environment. But this is exactly the direction that we are going. And this config file was like one small step down the road to composability. And the steps that we have coming up next will really double down on this principle. We want to put everything in your hands. We want to let you take it apart like Lego. We don't want everyone to have to think about it all the time, so it will gather in a sensible way for you. But when you want to customize it, the power will be in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so another big bit of like Prisma 7's marketing material was y'all are moving away from Rust. And it's funny because everybody is moving to Rust for speed. So it's funny to hear this, but I feel like in things like ORMs, leaning on TypeScript for type inference and type generation could probably be a good thing. What was the reason for moving away from Rust? Are you seeing any speed changes, and how does it make it like more adaptable to the TypeScript ecosystem?
Well, this isn't the first time I've had this question, I'll be honest. I know it sounds counterintuitive to be moving away from Rust. And probably for a lot of your listeners, they wouldn't even be aware that Prisma was using Rust. I know when I was using Prisma as a developer, I couldn't care less. Prisma was just the thing that I used to get my data, and I really didn't care how it worked. And I didn't even find out we used Rust until I started working at Prisma a year ago. But one of the consequences of having a core written in Rust is you have to be able to execute that Rust at runtime. Prisma sort of operates in two spheres. There's when you run it on the command line, and there's when your application runs it at runtime to do queries. On the command line is not such an issue. You usually have a lot of control over the environment you run your commands in. It's usually your machine, your laptop, or your CI provider, and that's about it. But where you run your application might have much different environmental constraints. There are lots of environments where you can't run something that has a Rust native binary that needs to be executed by the operating system outside of your node virtual machine. That's the biggest impediment to people to using Prisma in different environments. And that was the biggest problem that we wanted to address by moving away from Rust. The way that we did that, and that's what made Prisma 7 such a big change. I said there's two spheres. There's the CLI sphere and there's the query, like runtime, application time sphere. In your application, we don't use Rust anymore. The way that we made that step without completely breaking everything was we take the Rust core that we had to run queries and we cross-compile it to WebAssembly, which we can run natively in a JavaScript virtual machine. With some caveats, turns out WebAssembly isn't quite the smooth sailing solution we had hoped. There are lots of edge cases, but fewer than Rust. So that was the motivation. Yes, we've seen some speed differences. They're not, when you see these benchmarks of like ES build or something, and it's like, look, here is how tall the bar was before, and now it's really, really small, and across the board, everything is better. It's not that simple. We've seen some big improvements in situations where your application makes a query through Prisma, and we go and talk to the database for you, and then that information comes back, and we give it back to your application. In situations where there's lots of small requests like this, a lot of our inefficiencies came from when you talk to Prisma, we would take your JavaScript query, and then we would have to convert it into a RPC command that would get serialized and sent to the Rust process, which would then communicate with your database, get the result back, have to deserialize it, and then reserialize it into JSON to communicate back to the node VM, or whatever your JavaScript VM was, to give it back to your application as JavaScript objects. And that boundary between the Rust and JavaScript was highly inefficient for frequent communication back and forth. So in situations like that, we saw big improvements. In other situations, we didn't always see improvements. Sometimes we saw performance get slightly worse. But for the purposes of people being able to run Prisma at all in a new environment, this was, of course, a big step forwards.
Yeah. Does it unlock anything else as far as like better type inference or type generation? Or it was just purely like a core thing that was like swapped out one for one?
It did unlock some new behaviors, but most of them are like pretty well internal to the system. It didn't change the way that we generate types, for example, but it did mean the way that we restructured this thing was when you give Prisma a query that's a like big nested JSON object, we will compute what is the optimal query plan that we will send to the database in which SQL statements. And that query compiler that we called it underpins this Rust to WebAssembly cross compilation, and that gives us some new capabilities to improve the efficiency that these query plans are computed with. Or we have a new data structure internally that does open some doors, but not in a way that's probably interesting to any of your listeners.
I just hate writing SQL. So anything that
I'm
prevents
right there with you.
me from doing
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I think, the underlying conversation, all of this is when I'm making a decision about what package, what library, what framework to use. To me, the biggest thing is DX, because at the end of the day, the user doesn't care what framework you're using. They don't care what libraries you've reached for. They just want the product to work and want it to be performant. And so really a huge part of that is more of like, how can I develop faster and create better features? What enables me as the developer to be able to serve the user? So I think, at least for me, Prisma has done a fantastic job of meeting that need for me.
Well, thank you. And I couldn't agree more. I think there's a lot of talk of benchmarks, which kind of hide some of the more important details, which are that if you're a developer, if you're an application developer, what you want is not usually to the nth microsecond fastest possible solution. Usually you want to build an app, which means not having to learn SQL or
Yes.
what connection pooling means, or really having to choose much of the underlying representation of what goes in your database. I, as an application developer, fundamentally don't care. I need to go and write my routes in my web app or my front-end views or whatever it is that my users actually get to benefit from. So for me, what I think people come to Prisma for and what I think good DX means for an application developer is I can concisely express what matters to the system and it will figure out the details for me. That the ORM will work out how to traverse relationships between models, or like how I go from asking for a model to it coming out of the database, or establishing guardrails in my type system so that I can't make certain kinds of mistakes. Like, these are the things that matter to me. And that the thing is deterministic and behavior is predictable, and that generally most of the time it does the thing that I want the first time I say what I want. I don't have to spend lots of time like diddling around with the details until it does exactly the thing that I actually needed.
Yeah. I felt that TypeScript front to back issue earlier, where I think I was using the Supabase SDK and struggling to get the type information that I needed. And it's like exactly what you said. You don't want to hard code in those types, because if it changes, that makes it very fragile. It's much easier if you can say, you already know the query, so you also know what types they should be. And fortunately, Prisma does that for you. There's a little helper function that'll provide all that information for you. Makes it so nice.
Exactly.
Talking about like being an app developer and just caring about like, give me my data and I want this to be easy to work with. It's not just for the ORM piece. For me, I also don't want to think about where I host a database. And so if my open source ORM package also happens to offer hosted Postgres, it's like pretty much a no-brainer for me. And so I've been really interested in Prisma Postgres. I think the pricing is super reasonable. And it seems like y'all have been improving that as well over the course of the past year or so. What else is new happening there?
Well, you're right. We've been working hard improving it. And we started with some of the key issues that our app developers were facing. One of the biggest improvements we've made is in how you connect to Prisma Postgres. In the past, you would have to connect to one of our secondary services called Accelerate, which was originally designed for like making it faster how you get your data. It would give you connection pooling, which for people who don't know, I had to learn this myself, so I will explain to everyone in case they don't know. When you connect to a database the first time, that establishing that connection is actually really expensive. It takes like half a second to a second. So if you're serving requests from a web server, for example, you want that request to come back in like, a tenth of a second or something. So if just establishing the connection to then query your database takes in the order of half a second to a second, that's going to cripple the performance of your web server. So we use something called connection pooling. You have some little system in between that keeps a bunch of connections open, and then when you have requests coming in, it will serve them from hot connections that you've already got in your pool. So we added this natively to Prisma Postgres. We have our TCP connections to the server and our serverless driver. They'll manage all of this stuff for you, taking a burden away from developers that, at least if you were like me, you didn't realize you had. But in the past, when I was building, say, a Vercel and Supabase application, all my requests were really slow, and I had no idea why, because there was so little actual application code in it. Turns out this was why. So we take this problem away from people. We've also started building out support for more Postgres extensions. We have vector support and I think PostGIS support. And we plan to extend that even further. We changed our pricing model over the course of the last year based on user feedback, which, as you said, made it a lot more reasonable, especially the free tier, which is now really generous. Yeah, I think those are the major improvements.
I'm also reading on here. I'm also reading on here, and I'm like curious. It says like because of those connection changes, you can use any kind of like table viewer to just look at the contents of your database. Is that right? You just give it the Postgres connection string and you're off to the races?
Yeah, just like any other Postgres database, whether it's local on your machine or remote.
Sweet. Does that mean, wait, does Prisma have like a database viewer?
Mm-hmm. Built into
like
the
first party? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have one built into our VS Code extension, and there's one in the Prisma CLI as well.
Nice.
I was going to say, like, the VS Code extension is so good. Like,
I need to get into that. I haven't used it.
It's so good. And also, like, AI is just so good with Prisma. It's better than, Drizzle. Or like Keasley.
It's got a lot of training material.
Yeah, it's like I can't always get the right answers for Drizzle and Keasley, but it knows Prisma front and back. And if it doesn't, the plugin is so good it catches all the other things. It's so good.
The Prisma schema language that you write Prisma schema in is really accessible to humans and AI. It's declarative. There's only like a certain number of pieces of the grammar. It's really hard to just guess what stuff means. So for an AI reading it, you can make a lot of inferences about how your application domain is going to work.
Yep.
But let me tell you about something else cool you guys will enjoy.
Yes, please.
You said you like the VS Code extension and you like Prisma Postgres. Did you know we have a local version of Prisma Postgres?
Yes, I did.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
I knew this.
And what's really cool about it is it uses electric SQL under the hood. So you just install the NPM package and it comes with a WebAssembly version of Postgres.
Yes.
So you don't have any environmental dependencies. You just start this thing up and you've got a local version of Prisma Postgres running on your machine. No Docker, no VMs, no nothing, just one NPM package.
Well,
the VS Code extension will start it up for you. So you can see like a list of your local servers that are running.
What? I actually don't have to like install Postgres on my machine. You're saying this just
runs.
works?
Yeah,
if you
you
want
just
a
run
new
the command.
application, if you want a new application using Prisma, you can just do like npx Prisma init --db, and you'll get a new application
It's
with
so
Prisma
easy.
installed and a running database.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go build something tonight because like scaffolding all that BS about this is like literally for me the hardest part about making new apps is like, cool, now I got to do data. It's easy enough to get the ORM set up, but now it's like, okay, I need these tests to run over there, and I need a place to do local development, and it's such a pain in the butt. And I was always trying to do it with Cloudflare D1, which made this even harder. But like this fixes all of that. That's amazing. I need to go sit down tonight and work on this stuff. That is awesome.
Yeah, the idea was like, if you want to start working on a new project, okay, we'll give you a local database and we'll give you the ORM. And then by the time you want to actually deploy it somewhere, with like one command, you can just spin up a remote accessible version of Prisma Postgres, and you can push your schema up to it, and you can run your application off it.
Right. Right. And this is why I've been leaning into Prisma for so long, knowing that like you've got us covered on the ORM side, and it's going to be, one command to get that thing up and hosted, and you just cover the full gamut of like development. That's what you need.
It really is that easy. So Redwood ships with a SQLite database. I think I mentioned that out of the box, but we had somebody that was trying to run Postgres. And so from a DevRel perspective, I was like, okay, well, let's see if I can get this to work with Prisma. And so I pulled up, I was like, I've got to figure out Postgres to run. What am I going to do for a database? And I saw exactly what you're talking about. It was just like, oh, I can do everything locally. It was so easy. So easy.
Yeah. So a year ago, when I started with Prisma, we had this completely Rust implementation of Prisma with a little JavaScript veneer on top. And we had just launched Prisma Postgres, and we didn't have a lot of these nice tools around it. Since then, we've made a very big step. We've completely removed Rust from the application runtime that you use with Prisma. And we want to take this further. So can I tell you guys about what's coming up next?
Yes, please.
Do it.
Okay, so we're working on a completely new product. It's fully TypeScript. It's the next evolution of the Prisma ORM. And our goal is to carry forwards the ideals of Prisma, what gives it the good DX, and like builds this application developer journey for you so that all the pieces are there in front of you. We want to carry this forward, and we're also making it agent accessible from the ground up. So I said before, we've been working hard to make Prisma more modular and decomposable so that you can glue it together however it fits for your application. So this new product, codenamed Prisma Next, is totally composable. Every component of the thing, whether it's running in the CLI or is running in your application, you can replace with a different implementation. So if you want to switch from one database provider to another, you plug in a different database. If you want to use a different driver that's optimized for, running on Cloudflare or, running in Vercel, you can plug in a different driver. If you don't like the query builder that we ship, you can plug in a different query builder. And for extension authors, for community contributors, you can build all of these things yourself. If you don't like the way Prisma behaves, replace the components you don't want. If you want to build a new extension to its behavior, go ahead and do it. It's fully open, modular, open source. And you were talking about agents. To enable agents, what we're trying to do is build really fast feedback loops. So when you ask your agent to do something in your IDE and it goes away and it does it, and then it's like, I want to run this command, and you give it permission, and then it does something and tries to work out what it should do next. We want to make that super obvious. So any Prisma query that you run is going to output statistics that are consumable by your agent, that will tell it like, hey, you did this and you queried for that, but you actually don't have an index on this field. If you add one to your schema and then you push it up to your database, this query will be efficient. But if you don't, you might want to reconsider deploying this. Stuff like that. So it gets the feedback that it needs straight away, and it can make changes without you having to even be involved.
Okay, so previously you would have to go right to Prisma And was this Accelerate that did that? Like tell you what queries needed indexes and things like that?
Optimize.
Optimize. Okay. And so, yeah, you could go and look at your stuff and say like, okay, this is slow. This is what I need to add indexes to. But this
Yeah.
is now built into the development cycle, just like we just noticed you did this and you're going to have a problem in the future.
Yes,
Awesome.
exactly.
Awesome.
Lovely.
We're
Okay,
still going to
so
offer it server side as well, because like
Mhm.
there are some things that you won't be able to detect from an individual query in your development environment. You might need data that's available only, en masse at scale.
Yeah, and I think the composability aspect of all this works well with agents because now everything is smaller blocks, smaller surface area, and it can just break it down a little bit more. That's honestly how I think when I'm developing things like small functions, small inputs, small outputs, and just put it
And
all
we were
together.
talking about local Prisma Postgres earlier.
Mhm.
This is a key part of building
Right.
fast feedback loops for agents, because you
Right.
can install it with one package. You can have a part of your unit tests. You can spin up one of these things with a programmatic API and like create a whole fresh database for your test suites, and then run your tests, and your agent can see the output, and then it can, change the implementation or fix the tests or whatever, all inside your IDE.
Whoa. That's
That's a
good.
good reaction.
Because now you can have separate seed scripts for each test, spin up a DB, seed the database independently,
Mhm.
and you can run it in parallel. Could you run these in parallel?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You
this
can
is
have as many
good.
of these running as you want, as long
This
as you've
is
got enough
good.
memory for them.
This is really good. This is also like a place where I struggled real hard when I was kind of building my application starter kit, where it was like, I want to run end-to-end tests, and we're constantly stepping on each other. How do I scale this out? And I just did the poor man's way of like, you either like reset the DB every time, which is slow, and then you have to run them serially. But I didn't come up with a good solution to just like run all of this at the same time. What is this package? Okay, we need to put this in the show notes.
It's called Prisma Dev.
Prisma Dev.
I'll send you the link later, but
Okay.
if you run the Prisma CLI, you just run Prisma Dev, it will spin this thing up for you. Or you can install the package yourself and use the programmatic API. I'll send you a link to the notes.
Sick. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Happy to hear that.
So
what's
do you have more
next?
questions,
Yeah, what's
Brad?
next? I don't know. No, I'm blown. I need to go play with this some more.
Yeah, I
feel
was
like
gonna
it's
say
got its
also,
limit.
is that a pun? Because it's called Prisma Next, right? Or is that part of the
Ooh, I see what you did there.
Okay, we can go to the next segment of the show, which is our picks and plugs, where we pick something that we like and we plug something generally that we worked on. So do you guys have picks or plugs?
I can give you a pick.
Yes, please.
Do it.
I have been working with David Blass's archetype recently.
Oh, yeah.
And it's effing great. So if you don't know what archetype is, you've probably heard of Zod.
Yes.
Zod has really ground my gears for a while, because whenever I see it used in production applications, it completely destroys the editor's ability to evaluate your type system, because people go way overboard with it. Zod is It's a great package. It's very flexible. You can express anything you want with Zod. And the problem is that then people do. And you end up with these ginormous Zod schemas that are composed of like references to other bits of the schema. And when you try and evaluate the types, it takes like 15 seconds to get a like hover thing that shows you what the actual types are. Archetype is spectacularly fast. And it uses syntax that David is a magician. I have no idea how he makes this work, but like you type a string into this little validator schema thing that says what looks like TypeScript, and it just turns magically into TypeScript type somehow. And they're lightning fast. So it does everything I have wanted from a validation library It's a beautiful, elegant solution. And if you see his benchmarks, they are
I've
off the
noticed those.
charts. He had to use a logarithmic graph just to fit his competitors onto his benchmark graph.
Yeah, his benchmarks are in nanoseconds. What the heck?
Well, so for anybody listening, it says archetype is 14 nanoseconds, Zod is 281, and then Yup is 40,000, which is crazy.
But now, okay, I thought all of these like schema evaluators recently standardized on like one way to express this stuff. There was like a spec that came out. Was Arc on board with that, or are they not so that they can be fast? Does this ring a bell to anybody?
It rings a bell. I think that was more about the like API structure though, rather than the implementation.
Possibly.
But not my area.
I haven't dug into archetype, but the like the definitions look so much more readable than Zod. That's
It's
crazy.
magic.
Yeah.
You type these strings that look like TypeScript and somehow it knows what you mean. You know, we were talking about a good developer experience before.
Yeah.
Like you can guess how to use the thing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, this looks so much.
And
Zod, I always
there-
have to look it up, and I'm like, what is it again?
Yeah. Well, I won't lie. There are some parts of the archetype API where I was left scratching my head and really not sure how to do stuff. And then afterwards, when I found out what I was supposed to do. I'm like, oh my God, that's so obvious. If I had just like not tried to be clever, I probably would have guessed that. I just assumed it would be more difficult.
I can't wait to
It's
try
called
this.
standard schema that everybody uses, and Archetype does use it. It supports that same schema, just like Zod and everybody else. Cool.
Well, I highly
a great
recommend you
pick.
go play with it. It is really an elegant solution.
It's a great pick. Do you have a plug? Obviously, Prisma.
I mean, I've been hopping on about my projects for like 45 minutes. I don't know if I can plug
Where can
Prisma
people
and our
find you
projects any
online?
harder.
Are you on Twitter, Blue Sky, or X, Blue Sky?
I don't use X for
Good for
moral
you.
reasons.
Good for you.
You can find me on the Prisma Discord.
Sweet.
Wait,
Yeah.
That's
that link up in the
honestly
show
been
notes,
my
too.
favorite place online has been Discord.
The Prisma Discord.
Oh, I just meant Discord in general, but I just feel like aggregating who you want to listen to and kind of being more involved, like closely with the groups that you want to hear from. And you don't get
I started using Blue
nasty
Sky
spam.
like recently, but I've only got like one contact, so it doesn't do much for me.
Unless that one contact's amazing.
He's pretty great, but I don't think we talk enough for it to be worthwhile.
So
you can
funny.
technically find me there too.
Hilarious. Brad, you got a pick and plug?
Not really this week. I feel like it's been same old, same old. I'll do this. We took our 8-year-old daughter to her first concert over the weekend.
Yeah.
Like real concert at Emo's in Austin. And I'll pick the band because I've been singing the songs ever since we went to go see him. The band is Jesse and Joy. It's a Spanish speaking band. And
Nice.
really like all ages appropriate. And so I'll drop a link there.
Love it.
Sounds good. I half expected you to say Dora the Explorer.
Or Disney.
No.
My girls went to go see the actually Henry said it was really good. He took them, just the girls, to like Disney princesses, and it had the original singers from like Broadway and some of the movies singing the songs, and he was like, they're so talented. So
That actually sounds pretty epic.
yeah,
that is cool.
He was like, it really was good. It wasn't just like a Disney princess thing. I'm gonna pick. There's a new app that I downloaded that I'm kind of experimenting with right now. It's called Keysmith, and it's kind of like Keyboard Maestro if you've used that before, but it basically unlocks a bunch of keyboard commands. And I've been trying to figure out how to unlock certain keyboard shortcuts on my computer. Let me explain. So I've been doing a lot with Google Sheets lately and wanting to like use keyboard shortcuts in on buttons that don't necessarily have keyboard shortcuts. And so trying to figure out how to hack different things on my computer. So I'm still trying to tweak that, but I think that Keysmith might be a piece in that. So you can check that out. The nice
Is this
thing is
web based or?
I think it's more of like app based because it's an app you download onto your computer. It's like a Mac app, but you can create certain like that sounds so dumb. I was like, you can create shortcuts. That's kind of what I've been saying. But you can do things like have it select elements, I think, of the web of your DOM of your website. But if
Yeah.
you check out their they have an examples page here. I'll stick this in the chat. One of the things that you can do is like, I'm gonna hit a keyboard shortcut that will start a PR or merge a PR, or I'm gonna have it do whatever functionality. So you can chain those keyboard shortcuts together. But I think it will
Ooh.
also look at like your DOM structure to know like, oh, that's the element that you're trying to click on. So
That's cool. I wrote like a very hack version of this at Stripe to like autofill credit card information
yeah.
and advance through the fields. And it was like a raycast thing and it was like only web. Um, my gears are turning on this Keysmith thing where you could do this for any app and write like
Yeah.
full workflows. That could be cool.
Yeah,
That is cool.
so I can talk a little bit about. So one of the things I've been doing with Google spreadsheets is trying to format them. Like I have a CSV file that I get from AI that I then want to format, and trying to like format it is so tedious. You get the little paintbrush. It's not really a paintbrush. It's like a paint roller icon, but that's just a lot of clicking. And so one of the things I was able to do is I created a macro, which I haven't done a lot with macros in Excel. I know accountants are probably rolling their eyes like yesterday's news, but the macro would automatically add conditional formatting to certain cells and rows for you. So you're not having to click through all that every time. And then it can also format stuff. But I think taking that a step further, even with Keysmith, to be able to unlock some of that functionality is really interesting.
Very cool. And I love Raycast, by the way.
Me too.
Yeah.
It might be my favorite app. Although Arc is pretty high up there. I'm just telling people you can pull it out of my cold dead fist and hang on to it as long as
The
possible.
browser,
Yes, I love it.
the one that just announced they're shutting down.
Yeah, like 2 years ago, but I
Yeah,
keep
cool. Yeah.
using. They only do like security updates right now, but there's certain features, and I'm like, I just love it, and I keep hoping that since Atlassian bought it, that they'll keep it around. But who knows?
Say about that.
We'll see if browsers survive at all.
I know, we'll see. Zen, I know, is getting better functionality, so if I do switch, I might. We'll see. Anyways, thanks everybody. Everybody did our. Yeah, we all did our pick some likes. Oh, plug. I don't really have a plug either. That's a good one. I'm trying to figure out. Download some more episodes. We'll say that. Listen to some more compressed episodes. Go in our backlog. There's some good stuff there. Check out the one that we did with Mark Hess and Nicholas Burke, both from Prisma. Both good episodes. So thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat. If you are listening in your podcatcher of choice, please leave us a rating and review. It helps us find other great guests, other sponsors, all the things. Until then, that's all we got. Sweet. I'm going to go ahead and end it. Thanks, chat, for hanging out. Amalettes, thank you for commenting. And we'll see you next week. I think we'll do maybe one more week before Christmas. All right.